So when title update 15 was on the way, it was gonna be the first major patch in Division's franchise history that I wasn't gonna try. But after reading countless of new comments on all Division 1 videos and then rewatching a few of them, I really wanted to see if I could get a similar experience in Division 2. I did know of course that it wasn't that likely, but I figured it was at least worth a try. So I started up the Division 2 and decided to go for the mana stuff. So I did some control points, some open world mission, and then the target bounty for the actual lieutenant to unlock the mana later on. So when I got done with the open world stuff and decided to go for the mission with the bounty to get the target down, I did crash not once, not twice, but 3 times mid through the mission, having to restart the whole mission. Then luckily the 4th time I accidentally actually matchmaked, so I did have a group with me, so when the game crashed I could just restart and rejoin the group and complete it. So Division 2 still have issues with crashes, which have been a problem for myself and many others all the way back since Warlords, which is over 2 years ago right now, which is just crazy. After that though, I decided to check out the new game mode called Countdown, which is an 8-player activity. I honestly don't know why it's an 8-man activity, because it would have worked really similar as a 4-man activity. I guess it comes down to that looking cooler and flashier that it's 8-man, because it's extremely rare when it comes to the Division, and the only 8-man activities we have are the raids. And of course, while streaming this at twitch.tv/widdz, a lot of the people would ask me if this was a new raid, but of course that's not the thing. It's more like Summit 2.0. So don't let the 8-man player count fool you here, because it's an extremely easy activity that you can matchmake and you get a crazy amount of loot for almost no effort. So if you haven't played since Warlords expansion and the second raid, which is like 2 years ago now, there's not really that much content unless you are a new player. Then I would definitely recommend to check it out, since the game will offer you tons of hours. But for someone like myself, there's really not that much that it can offer you. Oh, how could I forget though, there's also damage glitches in the game, and not one this time, but multiple ones. So definitely make sure you don't use those on accident, because then you could get your account suspended. With that covered though, I want to talk about the Division 2's state of the game in 2022. Mainly so I can link it when people ask me, and of course I am still passionate about the Division franchise, so it is something I definitely want to cover, and hopefully in the future we will see the game in a better state. I also do feel like no other content creators is talking about this stuff. It seems like most of them that are still covering the game is just stuck in some super positive mode, despite the game being more of a shit show than it ever have been. I guess they maybe are glancing at their viewer count while recording, because with all the problems in Division 2, there is no way in hell that you can actually be happy with it, but maybe I am wrong. Anyway, I will be talking about stuff like the new content such as expertise, Countdown, then the game as a whole in 2022, covering like PvE, PvP, Dark Zone, and much more. So let's start off with the new game mode called Countdown. Overall, I think Countdown is a pretty okay game mode. It gives a crazy amount of loot, especially named items, but also it does have target loot that you can choose by yourself. And it does require little to no effort to run it. It's a great way to level up proficiency for the new expertise system. Despite that though, it seems like not that many people are queuing this at peak times, because I'm getting put at American server or even Asian server more times than actual European server, and I'm located in Sweden, so that's kinda strange. And yes, this was also an issue on the launch week. It seems like the matchmaking settings are really bad and it matches you with anyone. Sure, it might fill it up a bit faster, but I really don't want to play my shooter games with 130 to 200 ping. If we look at Countdown as a game mode, it only have one difficulty setting, so it gets really stale really quick, and I think people would not like the game mode if it wasn't for the crazy amount of loot that you get from it. It literally feels like a loot pinata. Since Countdown is pretty easy, it makes a really good way to level up your gear pieces proficiency for the new expertise system, where you can just equip 6 pieces of one gear set to level up faster, and you usually don't have any issues with Countdown anyway, which tells you a lot about the activity. So Countdown is created for people that don't play too much daily and just play really casually, which is fine, but for people that want new challenging PvE content, there haven't been anything added since the Warlords expansion. They did, however, add the new expertise system that I guess would be for the grinders. But the problem is that there's no challenging PvE content, as I said earlier, which means for PvE you will invest a lot of time to get it to level 20, which is the max right now. However though, this will be increased every season as far as I know, so the next season the max will be level 30. So you put in the time to max it out just to do the same content we've done for years now, since none of the added content is offering a challenge at all. I do feel like the expertise system is added instead of increasing the character level or item level, which is a good way to do it, but adding this system so late into the game's life cycle, and especially with no new challenging content, just feels really strange to me. Maybe they are testing new stuff for the Division 3, and especially since they also reworking the specialization system, which I also find really strange to do this late into the game. They could be doing stuff like this though, because it doesn't need as much manpower as some new challenging content, for example. Who knows though. Anyway, the expertise system, it's pretty nice, but it could have been made way more simple, and it really feels like they're trying their hardest to add additional grind for it in every possible way. To max out expertise to current level 20, you need to play like all of the gear and pieces, or at least a lot of them, to get them to proficiency level 10. Which means that it forces you to use gear you don't want to use, which in a lot of cases people will just equip Frankenstein builds and run countdown because it's easy even playing a shitty build, and on top of that you get tons of loot that you can donate for even more proficiency levels. So when I did get my expertise up to level 2, I wanted to test and upgrade one piece. So when I upgraded my Fox Prayer knee pads, I did realize that it's unique to the item. So all my other Fox Prayer knee pads need to be manually upgraded as well. It doesn't cost that much since I'm only level 2, but if you are level 20, the cost will actually be quite a lot, especially when you start adding up all the additional items you will do it for. And I personally don't understand this, and I got extremely surprised when I noticed this in the game. It just seems like once again, they just want to add as much additional grind as possible into the expertise system, which personally I don't think make any sense at all. And with how the expertise system work, you would think that it's created and most beneficial for PvE players, but that's actually not the case right now. With no challenging content, it doesn't really matter for PvE. Of course, if you're speedrunning, like, it will make you stronger, of course, but you don't really need it because you're doing the same content that you've done for years, except countdown though, I guess. But I mean, countdown is super easy. So yeah, you will make it faster, but is there any need? No. But when it comes to PvP though, that's where it really matters, because you will actually go against other players that also have the possibility to make their character stronger with the expertise system, right? And since it gives you 1% armor and 1% weapon damage per expertise, it is calculated a bit different though. So I think it gives you around half the value if you look at the character increasement as a whole. But still, if you can get like 10% more weapon damage on just your weapon, of course, if you're gonna go against other people that do that, you definitely want to make sure that you stay close to that. Otherwise, you will just be at a massive disadvantage. So it can give you 10% more weapon damage and like 1 more blue core in armor, which will make it an even steeper entry point into PvP. So it's forcing people that want to stay competitive in PvP to do a lot of PvE grind to not just be at a massive disadvantage. Imagine though if it was the other way around. To get super powerful in PvE, you would have to play 50 to 100 hours, probably even more, to get it max. Like, the community would be so upset, because we all know if there's anything in PvP that's slightly good and worth it and rewarding, the community will be super upset. As far as I heard right now though, I haven't actually heard any PvP player complain. And if I look at myself and look back to Div 1, if we would have a system like that in Division 1, I think it would be pretty cool. And back then I was mainly a PvP player, but as of Division 2, I'm a PvE player that plays when there's actually challenging content, which is not that often. But yeah, another funny thing though is when it comes to actual builds, it's extremely easy and fast to farm most of the PvE builds. I mean, I didn't even have to do anything. I could just use my 2-year-old build and it was still really good. However, if you want to farm a PvP build, it takes way more time. I've been trying to farm a hazard build since title update 15 dropped and it's still not ready. Because some of the pieces can only be dropped from Dark Zone and PvP caches, such as Y'all and System Corruption, which are two extremely good PvP sets right now that I do wanna play. The funny thing is that I actually used to have extremely good Y'all pieces before the second raid launched, and also some more System Corruption gear, because we had like 15 different builds ready for when the second raid was about to launch, so we could deal with anything that would be possible to come from the raid. But after the raid, I had to delete a lot of the items because of the inventory and stash limits the game still have. And this have just gotten even worse with them adding more gear sets, brand sets, named exotics and so on. Which is real annoying when it comes for somebody that likes to test most of the stuff, because now they buffed a set that I deleted before, even though there's no new content for it to make sense to farm. So it just becomes pointless farming. You can, however, craft a few of these pieces in the crafting station, but it's extremely hard to get all the pieces, especially with right stats and also having them high. I do have the build set up now though with the right pieces, but since a lot of them are crafted, some of the specific stats are really low, and for this build to work, it actually needs to be maxed out, otherwise it will just not work, with like bleed and pulse resistance reaching 100, which is crucial for the build to work. So if I go in PvP and go against a bleed build or a skill build, I cannot run the hazard builds that does counter it. Which really sucks, because when I see the bleed build, for example, I know I'm at a super big disadvantage and I will most likely lose no matter what. So once again, making the entry point to PvP extremely high, even for the more experienced people coming back to the game. Because if you haven't played thousands of hours and farmed those sets, which as I said are extremely hard to farm because they only drop in Dark Zone and the caches, and even in there they are extremely rare because you can't up the chance for them to drop, so it's like extremely hard to get them. So even if you farm thousands of hours, maybe you don't get it. And yeah, even though you know how to counter it and there is a counter in the game, you can't use it, which is just really frustrating. And especially for people trying to get back into the game 100%, they're just gonna leave. With all that in mind though, I think it would be smart if they made PvP a really good source to level expertise as well. But I also know with the Division 2 community, if they make PvP or Dark Zone any good for PvE stuff, there would be a huge complaint as always. Which is why Dark Zone to this date is really awful when it comes to PvE. Like looking at the loot quality that drops in Dark Zone, I do believe it's hard, maybe challenging, I'm not sure. I can't really remember. But what I do remember is when Warlords got added and Dark Zone had really good loot, and you would actually fight for loot in Dark Zone, which is how Dark Zone should be played, especially in new updates. Then like a week after Warlords launched, they would nerf the loot really hard because people were complaining. With how many sources there are in PvE that gives you crazy loot now, such as Summit with targeted loot, or even the new countdown mode that also have target loot that you can choose, why doesn't Dark Zone offer better loot? I think Dark Zone should drop legendary quality at least, so it would be worth to farm it, and even if that was the case, it still wouldn't be the best way to farm, since there's multiple target loot activities where you can choose what you want to drop. And of course they have to like add something in Dark Zone that Y'all or System Corruption would drop more often. Like it shouldn't be, it shouldn't take like hundreds of hours for it to drop, especially when both of them are in some really good meta PvP sets as of right now. I do feel like this change wouldn't really do much this late though, since most people have the gear, but it would be nice for future content and add a little bit of life to the Dark Zone. Since we're talking about Dark Zone, I guess we can slightly talk a little bit about how PvP is in the Division 2 in 2022. We all know they gave up on PvP almost since launch, I guess, and they also said it in their latest state of the game that there's no people working on the actual PvP. They did do a 180 with how PvP worked from Division 1 to Division 2, but it failed really hard. Personally, I don't think PvP have ever been good in Division 2. It's only been fun for me because it was fresh or because I was testing some builds, and it's always fun to see how they work in reality versus on paper when you fairy craft them. I don't blame them for trying something new though. They did try to make it more liked by more people, by reducing the amount of different buttons to press and all that, which literally a developer told me in a stream before, like, why did Division 1 PvP change so much to Division 2? And the straight up answer is that they got told to make Division 2 PvP simplified, and that's why you don't have as many buttons you have to press, you don't have as many talents and stuff to activate. It's just like simplified, right? Which did change PvP a lot, and like in my opinion, a lot of times the way I see it is in Div 1, you had a lot of buttons, a lot of timings you had to do to make yourself tanky and to get advantage. In Division 2, in my opinion, it's mainly like aim your gun, strafe, and that's kind of it. Of course, there are a bit more stuff to it, but I think in comparison, that's how I see it when it comes to Div 1 versus Div 2 PvP. Maybe I will make a video talking about that, but it's way too much to put into this video because this one is already extremely long. But yeah, back to what I was saying. As a result of that, you can see that there's way less people PvPing in Division 2. And whenever I do check out Division 2, I always run into the same people. It could be because I'm streaming, like I know a lot of them is because of streaming. But even when I check it out off stream, a lot of the times it's just the same people. And even if I check out some Division PvP streamers, it's mainly just the same people. And especially pretty clear if you look at some OG players from Division 1. They have left a long time ago, and some of them didn't even pick up Division 2 because they were so different. For the people that still do enjoy Division 2 PvP though, there's quite a lot of hackers that don't get banned. There are even players that have been cheating since 2016 in Division 1 and in Division 2, right? And they are still doing it in Division 2 and they are not banned. I don't know if they are getting banned here and there, and then they just name swap to their old name on a new account. Because I don't think there's any limits for that on your account though, if you get banned and you swap nickname, which is really bad if that's the case, and name change should definitely be locked if you get banned. But anyway, it still looks really silly when you look at it. And especially in a lot of these cases, it's like a developer would look at it and it's like, yeah, that is hacks, bam, banned. And to us players, it just looks really, really bad. With title update 15 though, they finally did nerf the shield in PvP, which only took like 2 years once again. But there seems like they didn't put any thought about that at all, because they didn't adjust anything else. So now the PvP is all about body shots and crits. I never been a fan of the shield even when it comes to PvE, because it makes the game even more slow and clunky than what it is. But I still wanted it to be nerfed. But if you nerf something, you gotta think what it will change with the game, especially something that was this meta when it comes to PvP. And obviously, they didn't do that, or maybe they did and they just didn't care about it. Because you can take a look at something else that is extremely broken and doesn't work correctly, which is the trap, which also got added like 2 years ago. So I think we know the answer. Like, how is this trap that one shot, no matter what, still not fixed yet when it comes to PvP? Like, you would imagine they could at least disable it, but yeah, I guess that's nothing they want to do either. We can also take a look at the exotic sniper Nemesis that can one-shot people to the toe with a build that's not even set up for the gun, even with 6 core blue build, which is just really, really crazy, and it shouldn't be the case. I think the Nemesis is a cool concept of a gun though, that was obviously inspired from Overwatch, but it just doesn't belong in PvP when it comes to Division 2. Either you would disable it in PvP, or you would change the modifier which are in place, so you could only one-shot if it's a headshot, for example. There's multipliers for it, so imagine it wouldn't be the hardest thing to do if they actually cared about it. With the way the gun works though, there's just no way to balance it in PvP, in my opinion. Like, either it's gonna be too good or it's gonna be too bad. But I would rather see it being too bad. Then I guess something else we can mention is the corner glitching that have been a thing all the way back since Division 1. Basically, you can shoot at people, but they can't shoot back because nothing of your body is exposed, while you can just shoot them. In the Division 1, it wasn't that big of an issue because time to kill was way tankier. But in Division 2, a lot of the time to kill have been really fast, and with no instant medkits like Division 1, makes positioning more important than ever. In a third-person shooter game, you can't allow something like this in PvP, because it will break the game. Hell, even in PvE you can easily abuse this. And this is something that we even talked about, I think, back in Division 1, but I know Marco made a video in Division 2, and it's been heavily talked about, but still no change to this date. I do understand that this would probably be something that would be way harder to fix, but hopefully when we get Division 3, or at least when we get Heartland, which is supposed to be PvP, if we listen to the rumors, that has to be gone. Talking about PvP, we also do have skills, of course, which is crazy strong in PvP. You often see many people running skill builds, especially the average player, or you will see the so-called sweaty people using them if they get pissed off by other people doing something cheesy, and they will just farm with the turret because it literally fires freaking nukes. To me, the skills should be just an addition to your set and not the main source of your build. But I do understand a lot of people like the skills to be the main thing, but as someone that likes to fire his gun, it would be ideal if there was better counters in place, like adding a gear set called anti-bullshit set that I talked about back in Division 1 that just nullifies all the bullshit. Now, with all seriousness, it would be nice to see some changes to maybe hazard protection to protect you more against that kind of stuff, so there's at least options for it. But I guess that covers some of the stuff that I could think of right now that I think are huge problems when it comes to PvP. Of course, there is way more stuff, and I personally think the fundamentals for the Division 2 just doesn't work well for PvP. Maybe I will make a video later on, which I kind of always wanted to do, like talking about Division 1 PvP, Division 2 PvP, and just everything about it, why I don't like that and why I love that, and so on. Let me know in the comments what you think about Division 2 PvP and all that, because it would be really interesting to read it. Moving on though, so something I never paid attention to in Division 2 was the optimization system. I did, however, start using it a bit this patch though, trying to upgrade the PvP build I was talking about earlier. And there is just way too many different types of materials for no reason at all. You can get most of it by using your watch or using the mats from the watch in the crafting station. But why have this many different ones? We can just use a similar simple system like the Division 1 that only required Division Tech. Even though I had the mats, it took so much time trying to optimize it all because of the converting to all different mats that the different pieces needed. And I didn't even have to farm them because I used the watch. I know Division 2 optimization is way more expensive than it was in Division 1, and I'm all fine with that, but you can still have a simple system and just adjust the values as you want. I just don't see a reason why they should try to make this a bit complex. Like, if something should be complex in Division, it should be how you make builds, not how you optimize the freaking build, okay? Anyway, then we go to my most hated thing with the Division 2 these days, and that is, of course, the seasons and its formula, which is like the only content we've been getting after Warlodge and the raid. You do have the manhunts that requires you to hunt lieutenant targets, and then eventually you will lead up to the big manhunt that makes a remake of a mission a bit and add in some story and lore. I'm gonna be honest though, some of the newer manhunts, they were actually pretty good. I remember the one on the New York mission especially, I really liked that one. So yeah, I guess like the manhunt missions have gotten better, but it's just one small thing of what the season offers you. So yeah, if everything was like that, that would have been better. But since that's like the one big lead up, I don't think it's enough of good content though, if I say it that way. You do have the leagues where you have to be at a certain time, which I mean, first time you did it, it was kind of fun because it did used to be challenging and heroic difficulty. So at some missions, it was actually quite rough if I remember correctly. But as everything in the Division, it get changed to make it easier. So these days, it's only hard and challenging difficulty on those. So there's actually no challenge to get the times anymore. They also do have the global events and of course the season pass that is loaded with all the new gear, but I guess that's kinda it. And personally, I kinda miss the old way of farming loot. So instead of leveling up the season pass by going to doing summit level 10 or convoys or whatever cheese is available, I kinda miss farming it from actual missions and not on the season pass, because you know when it's gonna drop, you know when you will get it, and you can just cheese it really fast, and it's just really boring way, in my opinion, to farm it. But if they wouldn't have that in the season pass, the season pass wouldn't have anything except the cosmetics you can get if you do buy the season pass, which I guess is the whole point of the seasons and the season pass, right? And that's how they can keep making somewhat some content with the revenue to get from that. Which I guess we can quickly talk about here as well is the monetization of the Division 2, which in my opinion, it seems like they don't actually want to make money. Like the season pass, I came back after playing Lost Ark, which is obviously quite pay to win. You can play it for free though, it just takes all your time. But at least in most games these days, you can actually buy season pass levels, which in my opinion, if it would work in Division 2, it wouldn't hurt anyone. So instead of me doing Summit level 10 for 5-6 hours, I can just pay a bit of money and I would get it to 100. They make good money and I don't have to do boring cheesy stuff. I feel like everybody wins on that. But for some reason, that's not a thing. Like looking through this, and I talked about this on a stream, the only thing you can really buy is cosmetics, the season pass. And yeah, like it seems like they are not even trying to make money, right? I don't know, like when it comes to the season pass, I think I bought it once maybe, otherwise I never bought it. And in all other games that I play a lot, like I have done with the Division 2, I will always buy the season pass because it's usually pretty damn good and it makes you want to buy it. But in Division 2 it's just not the case. And then on top of it, you can't even buy levels. Like I think they should try a little bit harder to get our money, because if they get more money, we should get more investment into the game and everybody should be happy with the outcome. So please, like, improve the monetization, because I think it would be a win-win for everyone, as long as there's no pay-to-win stuff. Yeah, as I said, really boring way to get the season pass up. We have Summit level 10 or like convoys is the most efficient ways. And with title update 15 though, they did add countdown, which I thought like, oh great, I can just farm countdown while leveling the season pass, because surely countdown, which is the new game mode, will be the best way to level season pass, or at least remotely close. But nope, it was an extremely bad way to do it. One can argue though that the other farms like Convoy and Summit should get fixed because they're way too good, but still it wasn't even comparable. So yeah, playing the new update, it felt like I was getting punished for playing the new game mode, which was just not a good feeling at all. And as I said before, that's why I wanted to buy the actual levels so I could play countdown, because that's what I wanted to play and not the other cheesy stuff. The season formula have been used since like season 1. I think they did change it a little bit this time around, because the bounty was inside a mission instead of outside a mission like normal bounty with the lieutenant target, right? So I guess that's a tiny change, and they did add some more lore to it as well, I guess. But other than that, it's literally the same. And for somebody that do like the challenging part of the division, there is just none of that left. Like it really feels like the focus is on the story and lore, while leaving out the challenging loot shooter part of the game that it used to have. And I feel like they're making it really clear who their target audience is, which is fine. Don't get me wrong, I do agree that games should focus on the more casual audience, because that's how they get their money, and hopefully, as I said before, if they get money, they can invest it back. But with the division, it does feel like they just neglect their hardcore audience, and it's something you can clearly see, and especially looking at the few YouTubers and streamers covering the game. There's not too many hardcore players left. Anyway, since they're still going with the season formula, it gotta be successful though, right? Even though I have asked people a lot about the season formula, and I have even done polls, and the big majority don't like them. So I'm personally a bit confused about that. But as I said many times before, I guess it comes down to the manpower that they have and that is needed to make the content. And it's probably the best they can do with the resources they have had. But I'm gonna be honest though, if that's all they can do, then I would rather see them delay title update 15 a year longer and come back with a bang. Big update with lots of stuff, and I think that is the right way to do it, because that have a chance to bring back some of the people that left, while the current update we got is mainly aimed towards the people that still play the game religiously every day, no matter what, or for people that are following the story. Like I have a lot of friends that love the Division franchise, and they actually did come back for Warlords, even though they quit the game, right? But there's no way in hell they would come back for something like title update 15. So that's why I think it's better to wait a year, release something big, and you will have way more players coming back. And as a whole, I think that's just better. But obviously, I'm just a player, so I don't know how it really works though, but that's how I see it. So for me, I would rather see go big or go home. Like either the game does get a big update later on, or it doesn't get supported at all, because personally I feel like this does more harm than good to the Division franchise as a whole. It just feels like the game takes one step forward and 2-3 steps backwards every single update. If I'm being completely honest, some good stuff have been added, but there's always bugs, exploit, or something that is getting messed up, even though the content is usually delayed and there's not that big of a content update. To me though, the biggest issue I do have with the Division 2 is the amount of meaningful content. Even when the game launched, like at launch, there was a lot of stuff to do in Division 2 and obviously figure out. But as the time flies though, there wasn't much content at all. And after the first raid was released, and with PvP not being appealing to myself and someone that does like to grind, you will really fast run out of stuff to do, which means you just stop launching the game and wait for updates. Which is a common problem in loot shooters though, and it's not only for the Division, and it is understandable. But I do feel like other games just have bigger and better updates than Division 2 had, excluding Warlords, which I did enjoy a lot, which I do mainly think comes down to Gear 2.0, which I do think is horrible, but it did change up how the gear building worked, and at the time it was interesting to figure out stuff again since the system completely changed. But I do really hope they do change once again how gear works for whenever we get to Division 3. I can agree that Gear 1.0 was a bit too advanced, but Gear 2.0 is way too simplified, and I understand it does make it easier for devs to balance, and I think they also think having an easier system will make it easier for people to build, which I guess is true in some sense, but I don't think it changed much at all. Most people still don't want to spend time fairy crafting, and when they can, they would just go to YouTube or Reddit and search up the best build and just copy paste it. So all in all, I don't really think that it achieves their goal anyway. But yeah, I think I will end my rant here, and it's actually crazy how long this one became. You can see my recording is 50 minutes. Hopefully I can cut this down way more. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the state of Division 2 in 2022, since I'm actually really disappointed about the state of the Division right now. At least though, there is Heartland to look forward to that is supposed to come soon, but there's not much information out about it at all that is official. I personally have seen the game, have not played it though, I'm not under NDA, but I don't want to sit there and like give leaks out, which I could have done over like 1.5 years ago, but I don't want to be the guy that like leaks early alpha stuff and destroy it for the devs. So hopefully they will announce that soon, because that could be interesting, even though I have a small feeling that it will flop, but hopefully I'm wrong about that. Anyway though, let me know in the comment section below what you think about the Division 2 as of now. It would be interesting to hear for sure, and also how many of you guys are actually playing the game still to this day. With that said though, make sure you hit the subscribe button for more Division content, which I do actually have planned for the future. It's gonna be most likely quite different content though, but I'm pretty sure you will actually love it if you are a Division fan. And that will most likely be after Outriders grind in July. I'm gonna put some big effort on those videos. So, but with that said, I will catch you guys on my stream at twitch.tv/widdz or in the next YouTube video.